My name is Waffles. Yes, Waffles. Laugh if you wish, though only once. I'm a calico with a coat so fine it reflects starlight like glass. I pad across consoles and decks with the confidence of one who knows she's indispensable. The humans aboard the Wayward Star think me a mascot. They're wrong. I am an operative. Yes, I'll begin the story shortly. But first, humor me. Press like, subscribe, and perhaps ring that little bell. It tells the humans I'm appreciated and spares me the indignity of begging for fish. Surely you wouldn't deny a cat her due. Ethan Lane is my human. To the galaxy, he's a pirate. Ruthless, cunning, a man who would slit a throat for profit and smile as he pocketed the credits. To Terran intelligence, however, he's a deep-cover operative, placed in the underworld to map its labyrinth of loyalties, to gather intelligence on alien threats, and, when necessary, to act decisively. I'm his watcher, his shadow, his safeguard. And though he didn't know it, he wasn't the only one under observation. Life aboard a pirate ship is never dull. Humans yell, fight, gamble, and spill drinks with an enthusiasm that defies logic. Ethan plays the role well. He cheats at cards, drinks without flinching, and laughs like a man who has never known discipline. But when the others sleep, he pores over encrypted data on a private screen, his brow furrowed, his mask briefly lowered. I curl on his lap at such moments, pretending to nap while reading the scrolling files reflected in his eyes. Through Catcom, I share my findings with Socrates, who serves with Admiral John Taylor and Captain Kate O'Brien on Earth's flagship. His voice is always dry, skeptical, tinged with superiority. Lane walks a dangerous line, Socrates remarked one night, as I observed Ethan studying Karath fleet movements. I flicked an ear. All humans walk dangerous lines. At least this one balances well. Until he doesn't, Socrates countered. Masks crack. Identities blur. Remember that, Waffles. I purred softly, more amused than convinced. Socrates worries too much. The revelation about Rin Davor came suddenly, though the signs had been there all along. He was Ethan's first mate. Tall, scarred, quick with a blade and quicker with orders. He obeyed, yes, but his eyes lingered too often on Ethan's hands, his gaze sharpened whenever decisions carried risk. He wasn't watching a captain. He was monitoring an asset. It was late, the ship in the hush between raids, when Rin stepped into Ethan's quarters. I was already there, grooming a paw, pretending indifference. You're not just a pirate, Rin said, his voice low but firm. You're Terran intelligence. Ethan's mouth curved into that dangerous half-smile of his. And you're not just a first mate, so who do you belong to? Same people you do. They sent me to keep an eye on you, make sure you don't drift. A laugh, sharp and amused. They think I'll go native then? Lose myself in the plunder and the rum? Rin didn't blink. They think you'll start making choices for yourself instead of the mission. From the shadows, I whispered over Catcom. Socrates, you'll want to hear this. He responded at once. Of course the humans don't trust each other. Typical. 2 operatives on one ship. Inefficient, paranoid, yet somehow effective. And the cat cleans up the mess. Naturally, I replied, purring. We always do. The Karath patrol ship job was Ethan's idea. It was bold, reckless, and perfectly piratical. We'll take it intact, he explained to the crew, swaggering across the mess hall. A working Karath patrol craft sells for more than a dozen merchant freighters. Once it's ours, we can name our price. The pirates roared approval. Rin's eyes narrowed, calculating. I licked my whiskers. Socrates, listening through Catcom, muttered disapproval. Madness. Pure human madness. Or brilliance, I countered. The line is very thin. That's why it works. The raid began with fire and blood. The Wayward Star emerged from a nebula, cannons blazing. Grappling harpoons tore into the Karath vessel, locking the ships together. Ethan led the boarding party, Rin at his side, blades flashing. I slipped through the chaos, unseen, darting between armored boots and alien claws. The air reeked of ozone and burning metal. The Karath roared in fury, but their ship was undermanned, their defenses unprepared. Within an hour, the vessel was ours. Ethan planted the Terran flag on its console. Not in truth, but in jest, the kind of swagger that made pirates cheer and enemies grind their teeth. When the smoke cleared, he leaned against the captain's chair, grinning. "Gentlemen, we're rich." Rin said nothing, his face unreadable. I, however, noticed the faint curl of his fingers near his weapon. Not anger, caution. He was calculating what Ethan would do with such wealth. 2 cycles later, the ship was sold on the black market. Credits flooded into Ethan's accounts, glittering across the display like stars. The pirates cheered, drank, and gambled. Ethan did none of these. Instead, he invested. Weapons, shields, torpedoes, hull reinforcements. The Wayward Star bristled with new power, enough to challenge fleets that once dwarfed her. And then came the girl. The slave market was foul, stinking of fear and desperation. Humans, aliens, hybrids, all chained, all silent. Ethan walked through with the air of a man shopping for supplies. I patted at his heels, tail flicking, disgust curling in my throat. He stopped before her, a Nissari, blue-skinned, silver-eyed, white-haired, chains gleaming around her wrists. She looked up at him, unflinching, her gaze sharp as knives. "I'll take her," Ethan said. And just like that, she was aboard the Wayward Star. When Kate O'Brien learned of it, the explosion was immediate. Her face filled the comm screen, eyes blazing. "You bought a slave? A girl?" Ethan leaned back in his chair, utterly calm. "A Nissari. She completes the look. Every pirate captain worth his name keeps trophies. Ships, treasures, slaves. You want me to stay under? This is how it works." Kate's fury was palpable even through static. "You're an operative, Ethan, not a monster. Don't you dare excuse this as cover." "She's safer here than in the market," Ethan replied evenly. "I'll protect her. But she stays. That's final." I watched the girl from my perch on the console. She said nothing, but her silver eyes burned like molten moons. Socrates' voice echoed in my ears. "Do you trust him, Waffles?" I flicked my tail. "Yes, but if he falters, if he forgets the line between mask and face, I'll be here, claws ready." I recognized the Nissari girl, Leora, but said nothing to Socrates. She didn't weep, beg, or plead. Instead, she watched. She observed the crew, Ethan, Rin, even the smallest movement of my tail as I prowled the decks. Her silver eyes missed nothing. Already, I recognized a mind that matched mine in patience, if not yet in cunning. Ethan maintained the guise of indifference. To the crew, Leora was a token, a prop that legitimized his persona as the audacious pirate captain. To Kate, she was a moral blight, a risk of political and ethical catastrophe. To me, she was a variable. And in operations such as these, every variable mattered. Socrates, listening through Catcom, scoffed. "A variable that could bite back, Waffles. Observe carefully. Humans never account for the eyes they enslave." I purred in response, acknowledging the warning. My whiskers twitched. Indeed. But she's also our ally. The first challenge came unexpectedly. Ethan had planned a weapons run, a meeting with a black market dealer who claimed to have upgraded plasma torpedoes and adaptive shields for the Wayward Star. The deal was dangerous. The Karath maintained patrols in the sector, and rival pirates were known to ambush Terran operatives disguised as rogues. I followed as always, tail high, ears attuned to every vibration in the hull. Leora walked beside Ethan, head held high. She didn't shrink from the crew, from the weapons crates, or from the casual threat of violence that hovered like smoke in the air. Rin watched her closely. I, in turn, observed him. There was subtle tension there, trust not yet earned, each of them aware of the other's concealed intentions. The dealer awaited in a shadowed asteroid station, a ramshackle collection of rock, metal, and neon advertisements that flickered in the artificial sunlight. Ethan stepped forward, hands empty, smile confident. Leora trailed silently, her gaze sweeping the station, noting airlocks, guards, and sensor grids. Already she was cataloging everything that could threaten escape. I whispered to Socrates. She is far from irrelevant. She is observant. Terran caution must be maintained, Socrates agreed. Or she becomes a complication. The meeting was tense. The dealer, a three-armed reptilian named Veshk, eyed Ethan with distrust. Payment first, he hissed, claws twitching. Ethan grinned. And if I refuse? The tension cracked like a whip. Veshk raised a plasma pistol. The crew tensed, but Leora moved first. With a sudden, precise motion, she tipped a nearby crate over, sending it rolling between the dealer and Ethan. Sparks flew as it crushed a sensor panel, triggering a temporary lockdown of the station's automated security measures. I twitched my tail, impressed. So much for a prop, I murmured through catcom. Socrates growled in response. Dangerous, clever. Humans would not anticipate her. The delay allowed Ethan to negotiate, payment exchanged in encrypted credits. The weapons and shields were transferred discreetly, stashed aboard the Wayward Star. Leora returned to her place beside Ethan, expression unreadable. Yet her silver eyes gleamed with quiet understanding. The first lesson had been received. I padded silently across Ethan's console, tail curling around a holographic display. Leora's keen enough to understand the subtle power dynamics at play. Socrates commented dryly, ethics in human operations are rarely simple. Observe closely. How Lane justifies this action to himself will determine his failure or success. I twitched my ears. Lane's success depends not on morality, but on patience, precision, and the awareness of all variables, including Leora. As the Wayward Star approached Karath-controlled space, Ethan began planning the heist. A patrol vessel had been spotted near the Jorik Nebula, another Karath patrol craft carrying weapon prototypes ripe for appropriation. He intended to steal it intact, then sell it to fund further upgrades. Rin expressed concern. If you are captured, the cover blows. The mission fails. You could die. Ethan smiled, lips thin. Every operation carries risk. That is why preparation is everything. I observed their strategy session from the rafters, whiskers twitching. Leora sat quietly on a console, noting patrol cycles, shields, and sensor blind spots. She remained silent, but her attention was as keen as Rin's, and perhaps keener. Through catcom, Socrates muttered. An untrained variable who observes too well is dangerous. Lane must remain vigilant. I purred. Or perhaps she's already trained in ways we do not yet see. That evening, as Lane and Leora lay in bed, she rolled over to him and whispered, It is good to see you again, my Tishayan. Socrates immediately chimed in. Tishane? Promised one? This officially just got interesting. Yes, I replied. They've known each other for 3 years. Fill me in later. I can't wait to see the look on Kate's face. The raid was executed with breathtaking precision. Ethan piloted the boarding craft himself, while Rin led the strike team. I followed unseen, slipping through ventilation shafts, signaling minor distractions with flicks of a paw, disarming motion sensors with small calculated nudges. Leora's interventions were subtle but unmistakable. Doors sealed at the precise moment to trap enemy drones, alarms delayed, patrols misdirected by the clever use of environmental controls. Once aboard the Karath ship, Ethan navigated the alien bridge with practiced confidence. Rin's movements complemented his, protective and deliberate. Leora observed, making minor adjustments where humans might stumble. I whispered to Socrates. Do you see now? She's not just a slave. She's Nissari intelligence. Indeed, Socrates replied. The extraction went smoothly. Too smoothly, perhaps. Ethan sold the patrol craft for a fortune in black market credits, funding the purchase of additional weaponry, shields, and an experimental cloaking device for the Wayward Star. The crew celebrated, drinking and gambling in ways that made me twitch my whiskers in disapproval. Leora remained at Ethan's side, silent, observing. Kate contacted Ethan again, fury uncontained. You've created a potential liability, stealing Karath ships and a blue-skinned slave girl on your ship. How do you justify this? Ethan's voice was calm, even gentle. She ensures our cover, Kate. Without her, infiltration into Karath systems would be impossible. She is safe, treated with respect, and her presence saves lives, ours and hers. Ethan apparently had no intention of telling Kate they've been an item for 3 years. At night, when the ship drifted silently through the void, I perched on Ethan's console, observing him and Leora. He spoke quietly, explaining the ship's navigation, sensor operations, and emergency protocols. She asked few questions, but each one was precise, probing, and thoughtful. I noted every nuance, tail curling thoughtfully. Socrates whispered, Lane is training her, but remember, knowledge without restraint is a weapon unto itself. I purred softly, and yet Lane's skill may balance hers. For now. The Wayward Star continued through the dark corridors of space, the crew unaware of the delicate balance aboard. Ethan Lane, pirate and operative, masked his true mission beneath bravado. Rin, the watcher within the crew, remained vigilant. Leora, silent and calculating. And I observed it all, noting the subtle threads of control, influence, and trust that bound them together. The Wayward Star hummed in the void, a faint glow of engine cores and shield conduits against the black. I prowled the bridge as always, my ears twitching at the subtlest vibration. The crew believed the hum of machinery and chatter were the only sounds. They did not notice the quiet intelligence that navigated their shadows. Socrates whispered through catcom, dry as ever. Observe, Waffles. Leora is absorbing faster than Lane anticipates. Remember, knowledge without context is a tool, sometimes a dagger. I flicked my tail in acknowledgement. Tools are only dangerous when wielded without understanding. The next challenge was a Karath blockade near the Glavari expanse. Ethan had planned the interception meticulously. Use cloaking devices, exploit gravitational anomalies, and draw minimal attention while slipping through patrol routes. But as we approached, Leora's silver eyes narrowed. They're deploying a secondary sensor sweep, she murmured softly, almost to herself. Ethan glanced up, eyebrow raised. I'm watching patterns, she replied. Their drones are not random. I tracked their recalibrations during the last 10 cycles. They'll miss the anomaly here, but not here. And here. Rin stiffened. You are reading them like an operative? How? She tilted her head, expression impassive. I observe, that is all. I purred quietly, impressed. Rin does not know. Socrates hissed. Clever Waffles. Ethan leaned back in his chair, pretending amusement. Then lead us through, Leora. Her first action was subtle. She manipulated the cloaking field, adjusting interference patterns to mask the Wayward Star from the Karath's secondary sweeps. I assisted silently from the overhead catwalk, nudging minor conduits and rerouting secondary power flows so the signature mimicked ambient cosmic noise. The ship slipped past sensors as if it were a ghost, invisible, untouched, unheard. I padded along the console, tail flicking. Leora doesn't bite. She calculates. That difference may be what saves them, or dooms them. Inside the ship, Leora observed the crew with clinical precision. She cataloged each member's skill, weaknesses, and behavioral patterns. Rin's cautious nature, Ethan's bravado, and even minor crew tendencies. All recorded, all evaluated. She asked questions sparingly, but each query was meaningful, sharpening her understanding of Terran psychology. At night, I perched above the bridge, watching her fingers trace holomap grids. Her concentration reminded me of the humans I had observed in battle, calculating, relentless, but disciplined. Socrates muttered dryly, "You indulge her observation, Waffles. Don't teach her too much, or she will surpass the pupil's role." I twitched my whiskers. Surpassing is inevitable. Our job's to shape, not restrain. The following week brought news of a Karath convoy transporting plasma disruptors and experimental shield generators. Ethan saw an opportunity. Intercept, steal, and sell them to add to the coffers and fund additional enhancements to the Wayward Star. He gathered the crew, outlining the plan with precision. Leora listened quietly, interjecting with a single observation. The convoy follows a staggered formation. The lead ship uses decoy readings, but the central vessel is lightly defended for short windows. You have 2 minutes to board unnoticed, longer if they detect movement. Ethan paused, impressed. Not bad. You've memorized the signature shifts already? Her silver eyes met his. I have observed enough. Patterns are consistent when routines are enforced. Improvisation is only required for anomalies. The raid was executed with terrifying efficiency. The Wayward Star drifted close to the convoy under cloak, engines at idle. Leora's directions allowed Ethan to approach unnoticed, slipping past drones and sensors. The boarding party, guided by Rin, entered the central vessel through maintenance hatches. I moved unseen, subtly rerouting power conduits to simulate system errors, masking the Terran signatures. Once aboard, Ethan and Rin dispatched the Karath personnel with non-lethal but effective methods, restraining crew and overriding shield protocols. Leora coordinated remotely, guiding minor shipboard systems to create cover and misdirection. The crew was impressed with Leora, thinking Lane was lucky to buy a Nissari so intelligent. If they only knew. Rin was beginning to suspect, though. I observed quietly, my whiskers twitching in satisfaction. Even Socrates muttered, "The operative works without hubris. Lane may yet survive his own arrogance." After securing the cargo, Ethan returned to the Wayward Star, triumphant but tense. He counted credits and weapons, planning upgrades with meticulous care. Leora remained silent, analyzing every transaction, noting potential risks and anomalies. I twitched my tail. She may already see the consequences. Lane's job isn't just execution, but management of shadows he can't fully control. The weeks passed, and Ethan, Rin, and Leora became a coordinated unit, each aware of the other's capabilities. I remained the silent observer, intervening only when the smallest misstep threatened to unravel months of careful planning. Socrates whispered dryly, "Observe. This trio is a living algorithm. Lane teaches, she learns, Rin monitors. Any variable out of place could destroy them all." "Exactly," I purred. And yet I sensed success. The calculated variables align better than most humans could achieve without guidance. The Wayward Star glided silently through the nebula of veils, its upgraded shields humming with the energy of stolen Karath tech. I prowled the observation deck, my ears attuned to every hum, vibration, and whisper of power. Leora's eyes flicked to me briefly, silver catching the light, and I gave a subtle flick of my tail, a silent acknowledgement of shared vigilance. Socrates' voice crackled through catcom, dry as starlight. "Observe Waffles. She adapts faster than Lane predicts. Shadows within shadows." I purred softly. Lane knows exactly what she's capable of. Remember, they've worked together before. Ethan leaned over the navigation console, hands deftly adjusting trajectories through the nebulous clouds. "Sensors are clear for now," he murmured, lips barely moving. Leora's hand hovered over the secondary control panel, subtly enhancing sensor resolution without disturbing primary readings. "You've optimized the cloaking fields again," Ethan said, brow furrowed. "How many iterations have you run?" "Enough to ensure minimal detection in this sector," she replied evenly. "Your original parameters were sufficient for routine patrols. These clouds demand more." I twitched my whiskers, impressed at the precision of her language. Socrates hissed through catcom. "She speaks with confidence. That's dangerous. Or brilliant." "Brilliance tempered by observation," I purred. As we drifted further, Leora's silver gaze swept across the tactical displays. "Lead Karath patrol entering from Quadrant 6, she announced. Ethan's fingers danced across the console, calculating vectors and intercept windows. "Distance?" he asked. 200,000 kilometers. Approaching at sublight speed. Pattern consistent with routine patrol. They are transporting maintenance drones. Light escort. It is possible to intercept without engagement if we time correctly." I shifted on the console, tail curling around a panel. Subtlety was key. Socrates hissed. "Intercept or engage, Waffles. Lane doesn't see the variable approaching from within." "We guide, we observe, we intervene only if failure threatens them," I replied. The plan was simple on paper. Intercept, disable, sell. In reality, the shadows of loyalty and secrecy intertwined. Rin and the crew followed Ethan's orders with perfect precision. Leora's instructions, often subtle corrections to timing or shield modulation, kept the mission concealed from Karath sensors. We executed flawlessly, slipping through the patrol's scan windows like shadows. Boarding the Karath ship required finesse. Ethan and Rin moved silently, disabling hull locks and overriding security systems, while Leora coordinated remotely, rerouting sensor outputs to suggest empty corridors. I padded through vents above, ensuring minor malfunctions created diversions when humans were too exposed. Socrates whispered, "Lane relies on shadows, yet the operative becomes the shadow he did not calculate." The Karath vessel was pristine, gleaming with cold, metallic efficiency. Ethan's eyes gleamed at the hull, plasma disruptors, shields, and weapons tech enough to outfit the Wayward Star for months. Leora's voice guided the placement of the cargo, ensuring balance and safety. "Docking completed," she reported. "Cargo secured. Extraction route clear for next 27 seconds of sensor window. Move now." Ethan executed with precision. The Wayward Star glided silently into the nebula, cloaking engaged. We left behind the illusion of a small cargo shuttle. Karath sensors reported nothing amiss. Weeks passed as the Wayward Star docked at hidden stations, trading cargo for weapons and shields. Ethan oversaw transactions personally, while Leora cataloged everything, noting anomalies, inconsistencies, and possible intelligence leads. She remained silent most of the time, observing humans and Terran operatives alike. Her silver eyes followed Ethan with quiet calculation, noting strengths, weaknesses, and temperaments. I prowled the ship, sensing the interplay between shadows and light, intervening subtly when minor errors threatened exposure. Socrates purred through catcom, a rare tone of respect. "Your guidance ensures success. Lane is bold, but reckless. This girl, she may temper him." "She already has," I countered. "Either way, shadows are our instruments." In the days that followed, Ethan orchestrated a series of raids on Karath supply convoys, each carefully timed and executed under Leora's guidance. The Wayward Star returned with weapon caches, shields, and minor tech anomalies, each adding to the ship's capacity to operate independently of Terran support. Rin, still cautious, finally voiced concern. She's no ordinary slave. You know her, don't you? Yes, he replied, with a tone that conveyed not to pry further. You're relying heavily on her. Lane, if she fails? Ethan's reply was unwavering. She does not fail. I have accounted for contingencies, and if something goes wrong, I trust her to act independently. That is the definition of operatives, Rin. We do not micromanage shadows, we navigate them. I purred softly, tail curling around a console. Socrates' dry comment followed. Independence is a shadow Lane has not fully embraced. He must learn, or shadows will betray him. One quiet night, I observed Leora pacing near the storage bay, silver eyes reflecting starlight. She paused, voice barely above a whisper. This mission is delicate. Trust is fragile. He sees me, but does he understand? I leapt lightly onto a nearby crate. Socrates' voice hummed softly. Observation matters, Waffles. Do you intervene? Not yet, I replied. Let her choose. Intervention now would compromise her mission. And so, the wayward star sailed further into uncharted shadows. Ethan Lane, the bold pirate and undercover Terran, depended on his crew, the blue-skinned operative, and the quiet guidance of a cat who knew all the spaces in between. The galaxy continued its indifferent rotation, the Karath oblivious to the audacious thefts, and humans moved through shadows they only partially understood. The wayward star drifted near the fringe of Karath-controlled space, its hull glinting faintly under distant starlight. The upgraded shields hummed in a steady rhythm, a pulse of stolen energy that gave the ship an almost imperceptible glow. I prowled the command deck, tail curled around a console, ears twitching at the subtle vibrations in the hull. Every hum, every whisper of the engines, spoke of hidden danger. Socrates purred through catcom, dry as ever. The hunter becomes the hunted, Waffles, and yet, Lane believes he is invisible. He's invisible only until the first misstep, I replied. Shadows conceal, but cannot guarantee perfection. Ethan's hands moved deftly over the navigation array. Sensors are quiet for now, he murmured. His voice held the calm precision of a man who had rehearsed catastrophe dozens of times. Leora's silver eyes scanned the readouts beside him. The slightest anomaly, a pulse of energy, a drift of debris, would not escape her notice. You're relying on me heavily, she said softly, tone measured. This mission grows riskier with every engagement. Ethan didn't flinch. I know. Your skills ensure that we move safely through sectors the Karath believe impassable. You're indispensable. Not to mention that I love you. Her gaze flicked toward him. And I am your Tishane. Socrates hissed softly through catcom. She calculates beyond Lane's vision. Be cautious, Waffles. Independent shadows may shift unexpectedly. Independent shadows are the only ones worth following, I replied. Even Lane must admit it in moments of clarity. The first complication came at the edge of the nebula of glass, a region the Karath used for covert patrols. Their sensors, adapted to the refractive properties of the nebula, picked up subtle irregularities in the wayward star's path. Ethan's hands moved with precision, calculating vectors and cloaking adjustments. Leora's subtle manipulations of the sensor field complemented his maneuvers perfectly. 2 patrol vessels approaching, she warned. They are following a standard sweep pattern. If we mimic a drift vector through the thermal shadows, we can evade detection. I recommend using the ion debris field as a temporary cover. Ethan nodded, voice calm. Make it happen. I perched atop a console, watching with yellow eyes the delicate interplay between human instinct and operative calculation. Socrates murmured, Evade or engage, Waffles? Lane's instinct is bold, but not subtle enough. Evade, I replied. Shadows now are our best allies. The maneuver required a delicate balance. The ship's shields flared softly as ionized debris brushed the hull. Sensors pinged, misinterpreting the interference as natural anomalies. The patrol vessels passed close enough for tension to spike, yet far enough to maintain invisibility. Ethan exhaled softly, fingers never stopping their precise calculations. Leora's subtle adjustments ensured no miscalculation. I must admit, Ethan murmured, your coordination with ship systems, it's remarkable. Leora's voice was steady. It is necessary. Without precise timing and manipulation of vectors, the Karath will detect us. Ah, I thought, tail flicking, the truth of shadows revealed. Not subordinate, not guide, but a partner whose loyalty is measured by results. Socrates purred faintly. And Lane believes he commands. How long before he realizes she may be the master of the shadows he navigates? Days passed as we continued through Karath space, each jump fraught with potential detection. Ethan managed trade, reconnaissance, and covert raids, while Leora fine-tuned every operational detail. The Nissari girl's presence aboard the ship became increasingly central to our cover. Kate contacted Ethan. What is the story with Leora? She's no slave girl. She's my Tishayan. What's that? Kate exclaimed. My business, Lane replied. The raid succeeded. Cargo, weapons, and intelligence material were secured. Ethan maintained the calm exterior, yet I sensed a subtle tension as he recalibrated his assumptions about loyalty, control, and trust. Later, in the dimly lit corridors of the Wayward Star, Ethan approached Leora. You don't rely on me, he said quietly. You never have. And I misjudged. Leora's reply was measured. I rely on the mission, not the individual. Survival is not dependent on your decisions alone. The mission is paramount. Our success depends on adherence to operational principles. Interesting, I whispered. She seems distant now. Something happened to her. The tension remained, silent but palpable. Lane, brilliant but human, had begun to see the limits of command. Leora, precise and calculating, had become the fulcrum on which the mission pivoted. The story of the Wayward Star, of Ethan Lane, the pirate and undercover operative, and Leora, the silent, calculating operative, continued through the stars. Battles were fought in shadows, alliances tested in silence, and every choice rippled across the delicate web of trust. I stretched, whiskers twitching, eyes fixed on the distant nebulae. Socrates purred, dry and approving. The shadows move, Waffles, and so do we. Lane will learn, or the universe will teach him. We guide, we observe, we intervene subtly, I replied softly. That's the art of shadows. And so, in the quiet corridors of the Wayward Star, amid stolen ships, blue-skinned operatives, and the tension between audacious pirates and patient observers, the story unfolded. Every mission, every maneuver, every silent intervention by cats like Socrates and myself shaped outcomes beyond human perception. Humans may not recognize the guidance they receive. They may bicker, rage, and misjudge. Yet in the shadows, precision and patience endure. And that is how missions succeed. Lives are protected, and legends are quietly written among the stars. That night, as the Wayward Star drifted in quiet orbit, Ethan reflected on the tension between duty, audacity, and guidance. Leora, ever vigilant, monitored every system. The Nissari girl, silent and watchful, ensured the story of their cover remained unbroken. I perched on a console, tail curling around my paws, eyes sweeping the vast darkness beyond the viewport. Socrates purred softly. Another mission completed, Waffles. Shadows maintained, lessons imparted, and Lane's audacity tempered by precision. For now, I replied. But in the galaxy of deception and danger, the next test approaches. And so, the wayward star sailed onward, through Karath-controlled space, through shadows, through whispered alliances, and silent vigilance. Every maneuver, every subtle intervention by Waffles and Socrates shaped the mission's success. Humans may see only the bravado, the piracy, the daring heist. But we, the silent observers, know the truth. Guidance, patience, and precision in the shadows decide survival, cover, and ultimately, triumph. And in the quiet of the command deck, beneath the watchful eyes of cats who see all and interfere only when necessary, Ethan Lane, pirate and operative, continued his journey, aware that every step is watched, measured, and guided, even when he believes he walks alone.